poverty, know the reality of Ruth Davidson's Tory
By
cuts.
your own
But anyway,
hand.
Jim's not been honest about cuts. Ed Miliband says Labour will have spending cuts. Ed Balls, the morning after Jim Murphy tried to pretend there'd be no spending cuts, contradicted him and said Labour would have spending cuts. But he won't be honest, and I'll ask him again, how many billions and where is the axe going to fall? Because Labour voted for £30 billion of additional cuts, and the SNP is the only party on this platform right now that's saying further austerity is wrong for Scotland. It's wrong for the people who are being hit by austerity. That's why we want to see modest spending increases that still see the deficit and the debt reducing, but allow us to invest in getting our economy growing, lifting people out of poverty, protecting our public services, particularly our National Health Service. That's the clear choice. The austerity parties here or the SNP proposing an austerity.
Well, hang on.
You want to respond to this point. Just give us an answer.
Nicola, I'll take no lessons in honesty from a party leader who can't even rule out a second referendum.
Give us an answer.
From a party leader who this morning can't even explain why you will take Scotland out of the UK state pension system and why you take Scotland out of the UK child benefit system.
If you don't trust her, if you don't trust her, why are you going to deal with her party? Why are you going to deal with her?
Nicola, you're saying this is about fear. This is about facts, Nicola. Let's stumble over some facts here. You would take Scotland out of the UK pension system. You would take Scotland out of the child benefit system. There's a different way of doing this, Nicola. The families who are at home who are struggling, the families who are at home, those parents who find it hard to feed their children, the people I've met who can't afford to buy shoes for the wains, those folk need a change of government. They don't need Ruth Tory austerity, and they don't need £7.6 billion.
Right, we've had your explanation of the cuts you want to make. Ruth Davidson.
Can I just say, I just thought that was the most extraordinary exchange there from people that are already trying to work out a deal to go in and prop up a government together.
Right. You need to find £10 billion more, according to the Institute of Fiscal Studies, of welfare cuts to make up the numbers that George Osborne has announced. What are you going to cut?
Well, we've already said, for example, that we're going to freeze benefits for 2 years.
No, that's the $2 billion you've accounted for. There's an extra $10 billion.
We've already said that we're going to cut the benefits cap from 26,000
No, that's in the $2 billion you've accounted for. That's not the extra $10 billion.
Can I also just point out that I find it astonishing that these two are piling in on this, because it turns out today from a new poll by YouGov that a majority of both SNP and Labour voters
Right, if you don't want them to pile into it, perhaps you could answer the question.
And I'm going on to do that. If you read the speech that Ian Duncan-Smith made in February of this year, he talked about the transition to universal credit, which has been modelled to bring in £7 billion worth of savings, because it's a tapering system that gets people back into work. And it's quite self-evident that you need less out-of-work benefits if you've got less people out of work.
So your answer is the same as Nicola Sturgeon's in fiscal astronomy, is you'll grow the economy and put people back to work, and therefore you don't have to answer questions about the deficit.
Well, the reduction in benefits, the reduction in welfare benefits that we've talked about, is carrying on the work that we have done, because it's exactly the same rate as we've managed to reduce it over the last Parliament that we're taking into this Parliament. That's why people know that we can do that. And yes, I have, and I'm quite proud of the fact that we've got 1.89 million people across Britain back into work, and that we want to get full employment in this country.
Right,
we want to get everyone who wants a job and is able to have a job to get a job.
Willie, Rennie. Hang on, we've had enough of the Institute of Fiscal Studies. We've now got Liberal Democrat documents.
Excellent.
And according to this one, you need to make £3 billion worth of cuts in welfare.
That's right.
What are you going to cut?
Well, Danny Alexander set it out this morning in detail. In fact, the first part of
I didn't understand what he was trying to do. It was something about mental health spending coinciding with health spending. Is that right?
No. What he set out in detail is, I think you're being silly, Gordon.
I'm sorry, I'm not being silly. That is exactly what he said.
I read the document, and what it sets out in quite a bit of detail is where the tax rises will come from, because the Tories aren't proposing any tax rises to deal with the deficit reduction measures.
I'm asking you what welfare
but let me go through it. I'm proposing £12 billion in terms of departmental spending and £3 billion in welfare. What we're proposing to do is the uprating in terms of 1%. What we're proposing also is in terms of the higher rate taxpayers, pensioners not receiving their TV licence and not receiving their winter fuel allowance. That goes quite a long way to the 3.3 billion. It takes you to about, I think we've got it fully costed, Gordon, but it's up to £3 billion in detail. I can send you the document.
No, I don't think the things you've mentioned get you anywhere near £3 billion.
It does. I mean, the uprating alone is quite a significant proportion of the £3 billion.
Right.
Things like tax credits, working tax credits.
See on what Ruth said, I mean, it's clear And it's not you as a person, it's you as your party. Like, it's clear they've got a plan to balance the books in the back of the poor. Labour's going to take a different approach. We are going to increase the...
We've increased the minimum wage
we will
above
increase
inflation.
some taxes.
Are you in favour of a cap on benefits?
We've taken the low
the
paid
top rate
out
of 20... We wouldn't change the benefit cap at the moment at £26,000.
Are you in favour of a benefit cap?
Well, your voters are.
We accept that the benefit cap should stay at £26,000, of course.
So you are in favour of a benefits cap?
But what we're in favour of is changing taxes to ask the richest to pay more.
But just to be clear on this, you are in favour of a benefits cap?
We're clear that we shouldn't spend more than £26,000 on a person on benefit, that people who should go out to work should usually be better off than they are in benefit. It's a pretty straightforward idea. But we won't do the sorts of things that Ruth's party are now talking about.
Are you in favour of a benefit cap?
Inflation.
The benefit cap is now there. I wasn't particularly in favour of it, no, because I think the whole thrust
of saying... Would you change it?
What I want to change... Let me tell you what I do want to change. All of these parties are talking about capping increases in benefits. Now, that includes things like working tax credits, child tax credits. Now, if you hold these payments below the rate of inflation, what you're doing is reducing the income of some of the poorest
you're now answering
people.
a different question than the one I asked you, which is, are you in favour of a benefits cap? Alex Salmon seemed to think it was a good idea.
I wasn't in favour of it, and I think you're slightly misrepresenting. But
he said it in the Sunday Post.
I'm telling you what I would change about benefits.
But what about the benefit cap? Would you let people on benefit to have more than £26,000?
It's not the priority we're putting forward for change. The priority we're putting forward for change is that we want to see benefits rise
I'm trying to
in line
interpret
with
for the
inflation.
viewers at home. Not a priority for change means we'll leave the benefits cap the way it is.
It's not one of the things that we would be pushing first to change. What we would be pushing first is to get rises in line with inflation for those whose incomes are putting them in the poorest sections of the community. Because if you hold these increases below inflation, then people who are... One of the biggest scandals in this country right now is the rise of in-work poverty. So we want to see the minimum wage go to £8.70 by the end of the decade. We want to get more people onto the living wage. But we also want to see people who are in work get to keep more of their income. That's why I would want to see...
I want to ask you all about the benefits cap. Willie, Rennie, if you cut the benefits cap in the way the Tories propose to do, it might help you get to this £3 billion figure.
We're not proposing to do that. We're proposing to keep the benefit cap as it is. But what's quite interesting from Nicola is that for the last 3 years, she's been condemning the UK government for £2.5 billion of welfare cuts. But she's not proposed to explain how one single penny of that will be accounted for. Where is she going to pay for it?
What you've just criticised me for, which is the modest spending increases
you've got
over the next... Well, no, hold on a second.
£7.6 billion worth of cuts.
Hang on, we're nearly out of time. And Ruth Davidson hasn't had a chance to explain why she wants to cut people's benefit, or at least the benefit cap.
Well, I think what we've seen is, and the reason that we're bringing it down is because you shouldn't earn more in work than you earn on benefits. Yeah. We're also making, with the universal credit, we're making it so you don't fall off a cliff to get back into work. It's tapered, but that will make sure that we encourage more people into work.
There's just a better way of doing this. Why don't we just ask those people who earn the most?
Everyone's saying there's a better way of doing this, but they're all agreeing we should have a benefits cap. We're all saying that we should raise the minimum wage above inflation, which we've done. They're all saying that we should lower tax for the lowest earners, which we've done as part of the coalition.
People who earn the most.
So you would lower it to £23,000, just to be clear on that.
Look, the Tories will cut the benefit cap. SNP, Liberal Democrats and Labour wouldn't cut the benefit cap and wouldn't change it. But we would increase the taxes on those people who earn the most to pay for the type of social justice that Scotland believes in.
Is it? Thank you all very much indeed.
Thank you very much.
Join us next Sunday from 11 o'clock on BBC One Scotland. Until then, goodbye.